Hey guys, Brian Ben here from Professional Baseball Training, located right in Catonsville. Last week we did a hitting webinar. This week we're going to do the topic catching footwork, throwing to second base. I basically caught all my life. I started when I was 10 years old, caught up through high school, Mount St. Joe, 4 years of varsity there, then went on to play 2 years of junior college where I caught, and then 4 years professionally with the Baltimore Orioles organization. The coaches that taught me most everything were Andy Etchebarren, Don Werner, and Orlando Gomez, three guys that know a lot about catching. I've also done some studying on my own, just some video research and simplified some things and created a training regimen that I think is very effective for catchers throwing to second base. So we're going to start with some catchers' pre-pitch responsibilities. Things that the catcher is responsible for before the pitcher sometimes even toes the rubber, okay? The first thing is going to be peeking at the runner when he's taking his lead, okay? So when I'm in my stance, before I give my sign to my pitcher, I'm going to take a look over at first base and see what kind of lead that guy's getting. If I see him get more than 4 steps, like 4.5, 5 steps, that's a good chance that he might be taking off, okay? Sometimes you see guys take 3.5 steps. That's not a huge threat to steal. But if I see a guy take 4+, I might even show my pitcher a thumb sign, which means for him to check the runner, just to do a step off and throw, step off and look, or just a nice smooth pivot throw over there just to keep him honest. You might even catch him leaning on first move. So as a catcher, you always want to peek at the runner when he takes his lead, see what kind of lead he's getting, okay? Second thing is going to be anticipating the runner is going in certain counts. So I would say early in the count is a good time for runners to steal. I've found that a lot of runners go in the first pitch or first two pitches, and then also on 3-1, 3-2. I know offensively the Orioles had a rule that we would run 3-1, 3-2, just one to stay out of double play, and then two, just try to take advantage of taking the next base. There's a good chance they're good hitters counts. There's a good chance the pitcher's going to throw a strike, and the hitter's going to. It's a high percentage that the hitter's going to swing. So those are good counts as a catcher to know, anticipating the runner is going to run. Knowing the runner is another thing. You know, center fielders are fast. Leadoff hitters are fast generally. 3-4 hitters, not your fastest guys on the team. Your catchers, not your fastest guys. So knowing the runner, knowing who's on first base, also gives you an idea of what pitches you can call, and it gives you an understanding whether he's going to steal or not, okay? You can also remind your pitcher of a slide step, getting the ball to the plate in a quick and efficient manner, also changing up the cadence of when he comes set. You know, a lot of guys, they like to build a rhythm out there. And when they build a rhythm, the base runner on first base is starting to count when he throws the ball to the plate, which gives him an understanding of when to steal and take off on his jump. So reminding the pitcher that, hey, we got to change up our set, and we also got to change up our move to the plate to confuse the runner and keep him off balance, okay? So those are just a couple pre-pitch responsibilities that we look for, or that we have for catchers to look for, to anticipate throwing to second base. Sequence, it's going to be transfer, footwork, and then the throw, okay, in that order. And we're going to break down each one. The stance, I'm going to go over real quick before we get into the transfer. The stance is important. A lot of guys don't start in a good position stance-wise, and that can hurt them later on in their delivery, their throwing motion. We want to make sure that the knees and the hips of the catcher are level, okay? So I'll demonstrate that for you here. We want to have our knees and our hips pretty much level right here, okay? A lot of catchers start too low. When they get too low, they have a hell of a time getting back up to make their throw, okay? So we want to make sure that the hips are up, our back's pretty much completely flat, okay? And we also want to make sure that the right foot is slightly behind the left foot. That's going to help cheat your motion for throwing later on, okay? So hips level with the knees, right foot slightly back, and then lastly would be the hand position. We want to make sure your hand position is, I like to put it behind the glove. Nowadays you see some guys, they'll put it in the crease of their hip. Some guys will put it behind their their quad or their hamstring. Some guys will put it right in their stomach, okay? I'm a firm believer in making that transfer as fast as you can. And I found that when my hand is behind the glove, I can get the ball out very quickly that way, okay? So, what works for one might not work for another, but I feel like that's the fastest way possible, okay? So, next thing we're gonna go into is the transfer, okay? And I'm gonna start on the knees. This is generally how I teach the transfer. We take away the footwork, we start on the knees, and just isolate, just work on the upper half. The number one thing we have to do in the transfer is we have to catch the baseball. When we see that runner take off from first to second, the first thing we want to do is throw the baseball before we get it, right? We rush. So we have to allow the baseball to get to you. So number one rule is to catch the ball first, okay? Or receive the ball, I like to say. Once we receive the baseball, we're going to do what we call a quarter turn. Quarter glove turn to the side is going to allow your bare hand to come from behind the glove, to get in the glove to pull the baseball out. I always tell guys to spray these 3 fingers. When you spray these 3 fingers, these are your throwing fingers. These are your strongest fingers in your hand. That's why we throw the hardest with them, right? So quarter turn, get the ball out with those 3, not the whole hand, right? You'll see a lot of catchers, they'll dig in the glove with the whole hand, then they have a change-up grip. So we want to make sure we quarter turn, we get it out with those 3 fingers, just like we're throwing a fastball. We want to try to get to a 4-seam grip. If we can't get 4-seam, that's fine. But 4-seam is ideal for really good command of where the baseball is going to go. Sometimes you'll get cross seams. Sometimes you'll get 2 seams. But if we can get a 4-seam, that's better. All right. Once we get the ball into our hand, okay, we're going to get back to what we call the throwing position. Throwing position here, I like to say, is inside 90 degrees. Okay, inside 90 is a good throwing position. Anybody that gets beyond that, 90 or beyond, that's a very long arm action. Okay, so your release timing is probably not going to be very quick. So once I get the ball out, I'm going to get back to somewhere around the ear or the cheek. Okay, and you notice when I make that transfer, I leave the glove side out in front. Okay, I was always taught at a younger age to bring the glove back to the ear to make your throw. Now, what's wrong with that picture is when I bring my glove back to my ear to make the transfer, I have to bring my glove back out again to make my throw. There's a lot of wasted motion built up in that. So I always tell guys, quarter turn, get the ball out, leave the glove side, get back to the throwing position, and right from here, all you have to do is tuck the glove side and make your throw, okay? At the end of the day, we're just trying to get the ball out of our hand as fast as we can. I'd rather the ball be traveling, let's say 80 miles an hour, right? Let's say I throw 80, for example. I'd rather the ball be traveling at 80 miles an hour, okay, versus me running the ball towards second base 10 miles an hour, right, if that makes sense. So if we can get the ball out as fast as possible and have it traveling at a faster velocity towards second base versus my body moving that way, I'm in good shape, okay? A couple drills I'll have guys do is basically just start on their knees, balls in the glove, quarter turn, get it out, get to the throwing position. And just repeat that same motion over and over to build up that muscle memory. Some of the tendencies you'll see in catchers is they like to throw the ball from the glove to the hand. That's something I used to do in high school. It took me a little bit to break the habit, and you'll still see catchers do it and get good at it. But I fumbled quite a bit. I fumbled the ball a lot throwing to second base. So if we can get in the glove to get the ball out, I'm very sure-handed. I'm sure that I'm getting the ball out of my glove. Okay, so it's quarter turn, get it in there and get it out. Okay? And just have them do this 50, 60 times, before they actually start making throws. That way they're building up that memory so it just starts happening. Okay? Once they do that stationary, then I'll put a ball into it. I'll start throwing from about 10 feet away. Overhand's fine, just mixing up the location of the zone, working on transferring from a different location. That's a little tougher. We always want to make sure we bring the ball back towards center if we can to keep good alignment towards second base. So that's pretty much it about the transfer. We're going to change over here and do some footwork. One of the drills I like to do for footwork is the T drill. All right, I'm going to show you now. Bear with me for a second. I'm going to change the Let's see here. How do we switch this thing around?